call the meeting to order at 5:34. And, that's calling to order the Water and Sewer Commissioners meeting. So
Correct.
we will start with that. And Edward and Elena Dodd, request for sewer allocation reduction.
You have to bear with us for a moment. So Mr. Dodd is not here, but he has a single-family dwelling. He had an apartment in it, so he was being charged for 2 units of flat rate sewer.
Mhm.
The apartment has come out. Tom did an inspection. It is out. The listers went back over. They verified it's out. His permits are all up to date. And he is requesting a reduction in sewer allocation. So, I'd like to recommend that it be 1 ERU instead of 2.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Yes.
He's immediate family for me, so I'll recuse myself from the
Okay.
vote. But
Okay.
I removed the kitchen, so I can verify the kitchen.
You could have stopped me right there in the beginning, Josh.
So if you want to make a
Yeah,
motion
so I'll
to,
move to reduce
So it's a change in sewer.
change in sewer
Allocation.
for Edward and Elena Dodd at 21 Kimball Hill from 2 to 1.
Correct.
I second that.
it's been moved and seconded to allow the reduction from 2 ERUs to 1 for Ted and Elena Dodd at 21 Kimball Hill Road. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain. Will Arnold, abatement of water sewer, continued discussion.
So we heard Will Arnold.
Yep.
He does have somebody over there, but, so Katie's has been out of there since
Yeah.
May.
Yeah.
We were charging him the full rate for, water and sewer.
Yep.
He did ask the board, if there was some relief that could be taken. It's totally up to you, but, those are the numbers that were paid. So that would be your credit.
Water meter, so, let's see, 418, so, and Katie's left
In May,
1st of May?
yeah, but
Or
we didn't,
somewhere.
we didn't try prorating that quarter, Josh.
Okay,
So you're looking at the
At
third
the
and fourth quarters there.
oh, okay, I see.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
Right.
so, I guess my suggestion would be that we ask Mr. Arnold to pay the water bond
Yep.
for the 2 months and give him an abatement on the sewer and water usage expenses. So that would end up with it's the total owed right now is 2019, and that would reduce it by roughly $538. So it would, so we would ask him to pay.
Included in both, isn't
What's
it?
that?
Isn't the water bond included in both scenarios?
Yes,
Okay.
But the water bond you need to reserve, so if he ever goes back to a restaurant, so we should keep that,
well, he can choose,
okay?
but I think that because we had that lapse period of time, that's the only way I can see that that's sort of totally fair to do that.
Okay.
And if anybody disagrees, that's fine. I think that's an abatement of roughly $1,500.
Okay,
And we can put that to credit. Since he's not available, we could table it until he is available if he would like to request otherwise, but I think that's a pretty fair
That is a
way
fair,
of dealing with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
So that would leave him with an existing bill of $538.30.
So he's paid up.
He's paid up, so it would give him a credit of whatever that would be. And I would just welcome him to come back and discuss that further if he feels the need.
okay,
But I think that sort of sticks with precedent that we've had. And you should also notify him that if he wants to retain that, he'll have to keep paying the water bond for those
Right.
number of ERUs.
right,
And again, as we discussed before, he would certainly be eligible to re-up to that higher level if it was readily available. It's
Yeah.
just a sort of a guaranteed reservation if he continues to pay the
Right,
water
right.
bond in the meantime, so.
so water bond,
And I think given he didn't know what was gonna be in that space,
right,
it's not unreasonable to have assumed if a
Right.
restaurant had moved back in, he would have wanted to retain that, so.
correct.
So,
So I will talk to him and, explain to him what,
yeah, we could either go ahead and do that now, Karen,
Yeah.
or you could invite him to be present if he wants to when we discuss it, but.
no, I think you can go ahead
uh,
and make that decision.
Get an exact amount.
Yeah, I'm working on it, let's see, so, 269. So his outstanding, or, let's see, so the two water bond, thanks. So the water bond amount is $538.30. And he has paid a total of 2019 and 16 cents, 16 minus 538.3 equals. So that leaves him with an abatement of $1,480.86. So if you want to entertain a motion to abate $1,480.86 from Will Arnold's water and sewer bills to be credited, or it's already been paid, so to be credited, kept as credit on this account.
Yeah,
All right. Do we need an address on this one?
it's 118 Main Street.
Okay, I'll move to abate currently paid taxes at 115 Main Street amounting to $1,480.86. And that Mr. Arnold continues to pay the bond of $269.15 per quarter for his,
It's water and sewer.
Until he requests a change.
until he requests a change, yep.
Yeah.
Did I mishear? Is it
And-
118 or 115?
118
Okay.
until,
And just, you said taxes, but you meant utilities.
Oh, utilities,
Yeah,
yes, I'm
yeah.
sorry, yeah.
So, second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to abate $1,480.86 for the account of Will Arnold at 118
118 Main Street.
Main Street. And that he continues to pay the water bond until he requests otherwise.
okay,
If there's no further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good, okay, and that
Thank you.
brings us, so let's see, you want that. And that brings us to call to order the select board meeting at 5:44. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
yes, we do.
Okay,
Okay, select board items.
yep,
What I'd like to do is have the audit review and approval with John Mudgett
Okay,
move to
yep,
the number 1. Conservation, we can hear as number 2. I also want to add the gravel pit under town meeting preparation.
okay.
And then as we get there, then,
So we're moving that from town manager's report to,
yes.
okay. Yep. Okay. And let's see, approval of minutes from January 16th, 2019.
All right. Yeah, I can move. I'll move to approve the minutes of January 16th, 2019.
I second that.
I was not present, so I'll recuse myself again. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from January 16th as presented. And if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
And I'll abstain. And then we have public comment on items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comment? Yes.
Okay, Howard Fairman. You probably have received copies of my promised report, but to honor the Vermont meeting law, I'll read a brief excerpt to put it on the public record. As promised during your January 16th regular meeting, I have voluntarily researched digitization of Town of Putney records by consulting Mr. Nicholas Conizzo, Records and Information Management Specialist, Vermont State Archives and Records Administration in the Office of Secretary of State Condos. Mr. Conizzo recommended and shared 3 online official documents that I have reviewed and offer below an executive summary for your consideration. The Town of Putney has a records restoration fund funded by town clerk's filing fees, having a current balance of $82,747 that grew by $6,283 during last fiscal year and has grown by $3,242 during this fiscal year as of January 29th. If an appropriate portion is invested in in-house digitization capability, new town records can be securely digitized as soon as they have been created or received, and existing town administrative and historic records can be securely digitized step by step as ongoing projects. This, however, is neither simple nor familiar and must be done exactly right now and always. I volunteer my ongoing assistance to plan this project, guided by Mr. Conizzo and his colleagues, as an interested citizen who can spare the time and has professional experience in specifying, designing, and implementing corporate information systems. Thank you.
Where did we get to on, I know Jonathan did some research on, you may have had this discussion at the meeting on the 16th. I know there was some research into whether to do it, try and do it in-house or not. What was the result of that?
Jonathan did call our vendor that we have our
Mhm.
copier with, and he did get a quote, and it's reasonable to have a full-size plan.
Unit
Yeah.
capable of doing that?
It's just finding room to, where to put it, you know,
Okay.
but Jonathan thought it was a doable
And
alternative,
a good, and sort of a good way to go?
yeah,
He was in
yeah,
favor of that idea? Okay.
so.
That sounds reasonable, as long, and that would be a sort of, would that be a purchase or a lease to own, or?
It's just for as long as we need it, so it's
Oh,
per
so it's a
hour.
rent, so it's a rental?
It's like a rental,
Okay.
yes. And they'll have to come in, set the machine up, and have it network with our system.
Yeah,
So when they scan, it'll just go to like the server, and then they can put it in the folders they need the plans in.
it sounds like Mr. Fairman is recommending that we would have the in-house ability to do that on an ongoing basis. So-
If it was ongoing, we would have to purchase the machine, and that's
prohibitive.
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
costly,
So maybe,
it'd be something you'd have to budget,
I was gonna say, maybe
Yeah.
annually, we
right,
do it for a month or whatever,
right.
whatever we need in order to do
Yeah.
that.
Because
Oh.
plans, once you get them caught up and digitized, it's not like they come in,
Right.
you know, for your
They're not gonna stack up the same way,
surveys,
exactly.
right, right.
Once, you know, I mean, even if we had it for probably a few days once a year,
Right,
that would probably do it,
yeah,
just to update
Yeah.
things and stuff like that.
but I think it is feasible to rent a machine
Okay,
instead of buying it. And then
Mhm.
somebody, like from the lister's office would be right here to, you know, because the plans
Work
are
through the-
involved, they
everybody
walk
can
into
work on
this
it.
room,
Yep.
or
Mhm.
Yep.
they don't go out of the building.
yeah, no, that sounds like a good way to do it.
What does rental look like? What is the cost of it?
Jonathan has all those numbers,
Okay.
so
We could ask him to come in, or
Yeah.
we don't need to.
I can text him and he can come in.
Mr. Chairman, would it not be customary to issue a request for proposal to possible vendors rather than one who is selected ad hoc by the town clerk?
It depends on the cost involved, I don't know. We, sometimes, we're required to do that for contracts over a certain amount, and I'm not sure how much that contract, certainly wouldn't be, it would be good practice. So I don't know whether he tried to solicit bids from others or not. Let's wait until he comes in and then he can possibly comment on that. I don't think we're required to do that unless it's a contract over the amount of, I can't remember exactly what it is, but
10 or 15,000?
Yeah.
something,
Yeah,
in somewhere in that
10, right?
range. But it's not, but it's certainly good practice, good.
I
So,
will offer two reasons why it's good practice. One is it makes them compete on price, and the other is by requesting more than one proposal, one gets to compare the proposals, and one learns a lot about each proposal by doing that, and makes them each measure up to the standard that the others have set.
yeah,
So that someone turns out to be a clear winner as opposed to as opposed to having been looked up, so to speak, in the yellow pages.
well, I think this is a group, because we rent our machine
Yes.
from them, we already have a relationship with them.
Yeah,
So we certainly went through that process when we purchased the current copier or changed our contract. I can't remember whether it's contracted, isn't it? I think he's on this one, so.
our copier is leased, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
leased. So we went through that, that was, I want to say.
A year ago.
3, is that all it was? I
Yeah,
wanted to say 2 or 3
Chip
years
was here
ago,
when
but
we got this
that's
one.
right. So we went through the process of looking at different vendors,
Yes.
but I think we can reasonably ask them to do that again.
Yeah, no,
And
while you're
we're just
here-
wondering what the cost, we didn't have a copy of it in front of us, so,
And I haven't figured out what the time, we just got this, we're working on the town report. I haven't figured out what the time
So,
will be. You know, we need to estimate how many days, how many hours.
Is this, I mean, you have town report going on right now. Is this
Yeah.
something we should put
And-
off on until after?
That would be my advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine. Mr. Fairman is suggesting that we check with other vendors as well, so.
Yeah, that's our current copier.
This is, exactly, you know,
Right,
that's
right.
why I was saying, so, and we've had good luck with them, we have a relationship with them, but, you know, I think we could certainly, last time I know we checked with Newton Business Machines, and I think there was one other, I can't remember, but I don't know how many people can provide us with this kind of equipment. So,
right,
It's kind of a unique
machine,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I
Although you can buy
certainly,
one you can buy one on Amazon.
there you
Because I
go.
wanted to look at a picture of one, that's what popped up when I typed in the,
And it's prohibitive to purchase one,
I didn't look at the price, I just looked at the Google image.
okay?
I was wondering where we were gonna put it.
Gee,
Interesting
right
point
here.
out how much they cost.
Yeah, the only, well, yeah,
Not,
Did
And,
you
I'm not
and I
married
think we need
to-
to do some additional work on this also. One of the things that Eileen and I have been talking about is requiring, if you file a Mylar, you have to bring us a digital copy also.
oh, That sounds
I think we can
logical.
do that by policy.
I mean, and anybody who's providing a
They already
Mylar
have one.
already has a
Yeah.
digital copy
Right.
anyway,
Right.
so, yeah.
So when you bring it in, a digital copy and we index it. But there's still a lot of work to be done to figure out exactly how this is gonna happen.
And Mr. Fairman has volunteered his time to help you with this
Okay.
project, so.
I know Mr. Fairman, he came to visit me yesterday.
Good. So, you know, if you want to just do a little bit of homework and find out if there's another couple vendors that we could check with and just
Yep.
make sure that we're staying honest, and or if there's a much better organization or deal, then we should entertain
Okay.
it. You know, we could look at purchase price depending on how long you think it's going to take. I mean, rental, there's moving expenses of $320 each way, so that's a significant expense.
And then
And
some
then
IT
connection,
expense.
exactly,
to the network,
connection
and then
for 100.
$20 a day seemed to be pretty reasonable, but I don't know how many days.
$20 a day seems very reasonable to me. So we should just explore what the cost of purchasing a unit would be if we wanted to. I think Karen's point that once we've sort of gotten to a certain point, then we're not needing it all that often, then that might be
Right,
an
especially if we
expenditure we
require
want to make. But
Right.
You know, if we're requiring a digital image when a Mylar is recorded.
then
Right.
you're
We don't
already
need it
going
at
to be
all.
ahead of the game.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Sounds good. Does that all sound reasonable to you?
It does, sir. I'm going to add one further excerpt from my report here, which is on page 3. The reason is, we mentioned that, and by the way, I'm not in any way disparaging the all-service company. I don't know anything about them.
Yeah.
I'm simply talking about standard business practice.
Yes.
But it's mentioned that you folks read a photocopier from them. Digitizing documents is completely different than photocopying, and here is why. And I'm quoting my report again, existing records are visibly filed for retrieval in binders, boxes, folders, etc. Digitization converts each record into a separate, invisible computer file. These files must be named, organized, and described for retrieval, viewing, and reproduction, now and always. Otherwise, one is shuffling through thousands of computer records trying to find the one that you want, and the only way to do it is to open the record.
Right.
So it is completely different, and it's not that, as I say, it is neither simple nor familiar, but on the other hand, it's also not that hard.
Right.
But it's just, one has to do it. Well, as we used to say sometimes to people who were badgering us to get it done today, would you like us to do it right or do it over?
Yes. And we have plenty of experience of that over the years in
Yeah.
various different arenas. So, no, I think that probably the most important aspect of that would be sort of following the recommendation of the State Archives person, which I know you're planning on doing anyway. So I think that they could probably help us figure out an appropriate filing system. I mean, I would assume with land records, they'd all just be filed by their parcel number, and then other records.
Our current thinking is to link it with the land records.
Yeah.
So that when you were in the Limerick Land Records module, you could identify and view copies of surveys.
So the only
And
thing
it would be searchable in the same way that a deed would be searchable.
Right.
that sounds definitely reasonable. I would just say that we probably want to make it compatible with programs other
Right.
than NIMRIC, which I think it sounds like it would be, but,
Right.
So they're scanned in as PDFs anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity,
Yep.
would the Historical Society, or not just the Putney one, but in general, have
I
some
think it's sort
expertise?
of unique.
Or even have some expertise in this type of thing, you know, over the years? I mean,
Have you ever been to the State Archives? I mean, they are just amazingly organized.
Yeah, but
And I have a couple other things on my plate getting ready for town meeting.
Well, yeah, I
But
know,
it's-
this is down the road a bit.
yeah, no, I don't think any of this needs to be done before town meeting
No.
by any stretch, so, yeah,
But
but
I think we're thinking about it in the right way. And-
you have
Right.
And I
good
appreciate
supervision.
Mr. Fairman dropping that off today.
Yeah,
So,
good,
okay.
thank you.
And by the way, Mr. Chairman, Joe, in what I have done, there is no disrespect for the town clerk. It is simply that he has to do the town clerk's job too, and I
Yes.
don't.
No, I don't feel there was any disrespect taken, and I think he would probably appreciate the help. And, you know, I think it's one of those things that as long as we don't overdo it, more heads are better than less trying to figure out how to do it. And so we'll come up with a good plan, but I think the state can give us valuable and necessary recommendations on how to achieve that, so. All right. Any other public comment? You're not here for the public. He's not here for the public. You're all set? Good, thank you. Okay. So our next subject is the audit report.
You guys can print yours off?
No, I was looking at it.
Yeah.
I've got it right here, so I'm
I was
all
going to
set.
say, I do have an extra copy.
I'll take the extra copy.
There you
thank
go.
Okay.
Now, that one's dated January 30th because I printed it today. There might be a couple of very slight corrections because as we go through it in our office, we routinely clean things up before we get to final. And I think the ones that you have are probably the December 28th,
Yeah.
which is the one I have in my hand now too. So, first of all, thank you for inviting me. For those of you who may not know me, I'm John Mudgett from Mudgett, Jeanette and Crow-Wisner, and was happy to work with Karen this year and her first year at an audit with us. Although we have been here for several years, so you know I did kind of relate the changes and we were able to discuss some of the history and the evolution of the Putney accounting system, which was fun too. And the report itself, in this package, there are two reports, as you probably recall. There's a report in the beginning on the financial statements themselves, which does indicate that this financial statements present fairly the financial position, results of operations of the town of Putney. That's what we would call a clean report. It does, the opinions do run to both the government-wide statements, which are the combined ones on pages 7 and 8. A statement of net position combines all of the assets and liabilities for all funds, plus the capital assets and the long-term debt of all of the activities. The fund financial statements are divided between governmental funds, the general fund and highway fund, as well as some smaller funds, as well as proprietary funds, which is where you'll see your water and sewer reports. In addition, there are several schedules in the back. The ones combining the smaller funds are called combining balance sheet, combining statements of revenue, expenditures, changes in fund balance. And then the Putney Library has 3 schedules as we're combining both the operations and fundraising efforts of the library and also comparing those against budget. In the back, the second report is the Auditors Report on the work we did with compliance and internal control. When we're planning an audit, we always look at and test internal controls. And we did that this time. We did identify 2 deficiencies in internal control, which are mentioned in that report, and a schedule of findings, which is the very last page in the package. The 2 findings in internal control related to the recording of capital assets and the recording of long-term debt and capital lease obligations. Those are areas where we have had a fair amount of discussion, and I think we'll probably be doing some ongoing discussions relating to recording of capital assets in particular. I think you're on the right page with those, or on the right, heading in the right direction with those. I'm not particularly concerned. I know that as I've discussed with Karen, the intent is to have those cleaned up this year going forward.
Um,
Go ahead, Josh.
I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're doing the accounting for those differently than we have in the past, or maybe in the past couple years we shifted it. Is that right?
Well, I think what was happening this year is with the changes in personnel.
Right.
Yes.
I think the policies which had been implemented a couple of years ago weren't fully understood and implemented
Yeah.
in the year we were auditing.
Yep.
And also, therefore, we found some assets which had not been recorded, which should have been, some which I think may have been
We're still included. Yeah.
depreciated incorrectly or needed to be removed if they had been taken out of service, that kind of thing. So, and also, governmental accounting is a little different than commercial accounting in that in the fund statements, capital assets are treated as expenditures, and then the balances appear separately only on the government-wide statements. So there's some peculiarities to governmental accounting that have to be recognized when you move into that arena. It's in a similar way, debt reporting is an expense or an expenditure in the fund statements, but then the balances show up on the government-wide, so there needs to be a correlation between both the borrowing and or repayment in funds and then the balances that are carried forward on the government-wide statements. So it's a little tricky and it takes some getting used to, but I think you guys are right back in stride, and I expect next year those will be just fine, Josh.
Okay. Sounds good.
And I did mention in the report on internal control and compliance that a couple of matters that we had reported in prior years had been resolved or corrected in 2018, relating to tax reporting and the reporting of and payments of licenses to the state of Vermont. And both of those reports are in the big package, and we did not have any other comments or recommendations that we published. We do think that, I would just point out that I think usually we're here having this meeting in December as opposed to the end of January, and I think that also had to do with just additional time spent on the audit as we were kind of getting used to how things worked. Anyway, I don't mean to dominate, but I'd be happy to talk more about any of the statements or questions, but I'd really like to be able to answer any questions that you folks have. This is a good opportunity to kind of talk to the auditors, find out what questions you might have, what the answers are, and things of that sort. So
We don't have a written manager's response to your findings in
No, we
this
talked
anyway.
about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
We should probably have that in the final approved audit, or not necessarily?
Not necessarily, but, I mean, I'm gonna make a statement,
Mhm.
so.
I think what we discussed is basically that management was in agreement with
Right,
the recommendation and that 2019 will be the year of implementation of the
Okay.
recommendations.
and
So,
training,
in your opinion, do we need a written response
I think
included in
it's
the
always good
audit?
to document that response
agree.
Yeah,
in the
So
in the
we
report,
acknowledge,
and
yeah.
she offered to send that up to me
Right.
this week,
Okay,
Yeah.
and we'll incorporate it in the final version.
okay.
Basically, my understanding of the response is we agree with the recommendation.
Yeah.
right,
We'll move ahead. And that's, of course, the response we auditors always like to hear.
Yes. And I think the changes are, do you feel, I get the clear message that the message has gotten across and that it's going to be appropriately managed. Anything else about particularly our capital asset accounting that we should be shifting? Because I know we did make changes in that a few years ago. Do you feel like we're, aside from just sort of working through it so everybody's up to date, are we headed in the right direction
I
on that?
think we're headed in the right direction. There's been a little bit of a struggle to understand, and even in the last week or so, we've been going back and forth on how the depreciation schedules listing assets come together, how they're organized to support the balances that you see in here. And so I think there's some definite work that needs to be done there. And I expect that we'll have a chance to look at that very shortly. And that may be an area in which the board might want to look at an interim report during the year on that area in particular. And especially if you're thinking along the lines of capital budgeting for the future, and it's good to know, well, what do we have, what did it cost, what are the detailed numbers, and how does it fit with the policy that we approved as far as purchasing, assigning useful lives, and that kind of thing.
I know that's something that cycles with different managers and different financial recommendations, so as long, and you're comfortable, Karen, that we're headed in the right
Both
direction?
Alyssa and I,
Yep,
going through the budget
yep,
and the capital plan, we've learned quite a bit. And
Yep.
we have a handle on what we have loans on, what we're paying for. And as far as the capital assets, Nemrick does have a program, which I'm gonna ship all that to Alyssa.
yep,
And she will be involved in the audit in June,
okay. sounds good.
July. That wasn't the case this year.
Right,
So I'm gonna shift some responsibilities.
and as far as number of eyes crossing over this, that's probably a good idea as well, isn't it?
I think that's fine. I think that she'll understand it,
Right.
I'm gonna look at it. I invite any of you to look at
We'll
it,
never
ask questions.
understand it.
Oh, I don't believe that for a minute. I don't believe that for a minute.
Yeah.
I think if all of us can kind of look at it and get the common understanding, we'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
We didn't have a single audit this year, right? Unnecessary. Are we going to, if we end up getting approval to bond for a gravel pit, are we gonna have a single audit next year?
What triggers a single audit is consolidated federal expenditures in excess of $750,000.
So even though this is over 750, it's unrelated to federal, right?
Unless you were getting a federal
USDA
loan.
Right,
loan.
right.
If you get USDA or that sort of money, lots of times people do get USDA money and they don't quite realize, or maybe they get EPA money through the state or another grant through the state and don't realize ultimately it was federal sourced.
Yeah,
And any pass-through federal money counts toward the $750,000.
in the amount of over
Like
750.
Wyndham Windsor Housing, Putney
Right.
Landing, that would be a single audit.
But it wasn't over
potentially.
750 for
Right.
us.
Right.
So, but it does
when you
bring up a
start
good
adding
point,
them
exactly,
together.
because,
Right.
because I'm guessing some
The
of our,
sidewalk,
I wouldn't be at all surprised, sidewalk, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if some of our blacktop funding and/or, we should just keep an eye on that, and you would have noticed that anyway,
I think
but
that's state funding, the paving, but,
Quite a bit of
I think it is, but it might be
Yeah.
passed through
State.
some,
right,
Occasionally, you'll get some federal
Some pass-through.
highway money coming
Right.
through, and if you're uncertain, it's easy to call transportation
and double
and
check.
find out. The contracts themselves should say,
right.
but I have to tell you, sometimes
Percentage of sources.
sometimes it's hard to see it, sometimes it's buried in there, sometimes it's omitted, and so you just have to be sure.
And if we're doing funding for the potentially doing funding for the gravel pit through the Vermont Bond Bank, then that would not be, that's
That
not
bond
federal.
bank's
Right.
Not federal
Okay.
at all.
Good, thank you.
That's interesting.
Question from the floor.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, I am wondering, the auditor has identified certain deficiencies in Putney's, in the town of Putney's accounting. I am wondering whether he has any recommendations on improving Putney's accounting.
Well, I think that's been the subject of the discussion, and we don't, I think that the manager's response might address that to a certain degree. I mean, this has been an ongoing process with Mr. Mudgett and his organization, so go ahead, please.
Josh, I was
comment,
going to
John.
suggest that I just read briefly the recommendation
Yep.
that I made.
Sounds good.
Because with respect to the capital asset accounting, I did say that we recommend that management and accounting staff obtain appropriate training in the town's capital asset software. We further recommend the town develop and implement a system to maintain capital asset balances to ensure that all additions and retirements are identified and recorded correctly within the general ledger, and that supporting documentation is maintained for each capital asset. That is being done to some extent, but not fully implemented, and that's why we make the recommendation that we did. It's a similar recommendation with respect to the debt accounting. We recommend that management and accounting staff obtain a better understanding of governmental accounting for long-term debt and capital lease obligations, and develop controls to properly maintain balances in the general ledger and record related activity throughout the year. I think those recommendations are directly pointing at what we saw, and we will, of course, review how that implementation takes place. I expect from discussions that I've had with these two that they're on track to implement both of those.
And do you have specific recommendations as far as educational opportunities or professional development opportunities for improving this, or is it just a matter of sort of doing it?
There are a variety of things that we could point to that would be helpful.
Okay.
With respect to the software providers do provide.
Which is
Yes,
NEMRIC for that as well,
NEMRIC
right?
is-
Yeah.
And they
Support
can,
us
they
with
can
training.
Yes,
certainly help with that.
Yeah, and VLCT is another resource.
Yes.
Because they do certain workshops based around capital assets and
Yep.
accounting.
So I would just encourage both of you
Yes.
to feel free to, and encourage you to,
Right.
further your professional development in those areas, as necessary and as you would like to.
Yeah.
And we can provide further guidance or point you in additional directions if you'd like more.
Yeah.
Don't hesitate to call
Sounds good.
or write.
That's good.
Boy, very old
Or
fashioned.
email. Email us. I just thought we've been emailing.
John and I were email buddies last week.
Yeah.
There you go. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, John. I don't have anything else.
Good, I would just, in closing, I would say not only for these two, but the board as well, if things come up during the year, we work for you.
Yes.
Don't hesitate to contact me if you see something where you have questions or concerns. We don't just look at these once a year, but we do planning and are here on more than one occasion
Right.
throughout the year, so.
Yeah. No, and I think also your, not so much a recommendation, but indicated preference that things happen a little bit earlier in the season
Right.
is certainly heard, and would be, again, it's just the nature of the last year.
Right.
And so.
Yeah, because
this
right
year
after
will be-
June, we can get you in here,
Yeah,
August.
that's right. Just as long as you don't get in the way of my trout fishing.
There you go.
Keep a little free time in
You're
spring.
gonna have a little bit more of that coming along, John.
So John, one question, should I have this signed off tonight?
If you can, the select board can sign those, or the select board chair could sign on behalf of the board.
Okay.
You can sign as management.
Should we wait until there's a management response in it we could approve it contingent upon, or is there any reason we need to do it tonight?
I don't think there's a reason you need to do it tonight. What we suggest is that you be happy with it, because when you tell us by signing, that you're accepting and buying into it, then that's our trigger to go ahead and prepare the final signed version of this and-
Okay.
and-
All right.
and distribute it.
So we
back to
probably ought it not to put pressure, not to put more in your lap, but,
Melissa? Yeah.
but
It's-
also, I mean, if we're gonna, it's gonna be made available at town meeting.
Yes,
So we
yeah.
need to have a final draft,
Right.
and if the final draft has to include that,
Right.
then.
So I'll get your responses tomorrow,
Okay,
and then we can,
and you could, you might suggest that you forward it to these folks so that they can
Right.
bless it.
right,
And then
we'll
we
know.
can
Yeah.
actually get you a printed and electronic version, because I believe you posted on your website too.
Exactly.
yes, yeah.
And I don't think there's not there's not a requirement to post that a certain amount in advance of town meeting, or is there, do you know?
Well, you have to.
You have to have
this
it
is-
available,
Yeah, generally,
Yes.
it should be
At town
available.
meeting, right.
And I think it's a best practice to make it.
To have it in
available.
Right.
advance, of
Yeah.
course. So,
Right.
so basically,
yeah,
whenever you can do that would be good,
tomorrow.
as long as it isn't the straw that, you know.
No more than 5 pages.
Don't, do not slow her down. She
Yeah,
wants to.
Yeah, exactly. Tomorrow's
Okay.
good,
Yeah,
okay.
tomorrow's good,
So
we've
it-
done it out of the way.
And so then we should, when we look at it, we should reply all, so that it becomes public record.
We shouldn't engage in that, though.
No,
No?
Definitely
No.
not, no.
Then how do we know that?
You, we can
send
each
it.
reply
Yeah.
individually, and then Karen
Right.
can
Okay.
respond to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So, because otherwise, we're equal to being in a meeting.
yes,
So,
Right, that's why I thought we should do it that way.
no, we
No.
should review it individually, respond to Karen, and then
Yeah.
Karen, because we can't communicate outside of open meeting
Right.
on it, so. So if we send it
Okay, 'cause
individually
it's not-
back to
it's
Karen,
not
then
warrant.
we're not
It's
going,
Right,
to-
right,
we're
right.
not going back and forth
Yeah.
between us, so.
okay.
Good.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank you,
very
John,
much,
for
John.
coming down.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your having me here, and we always like to come and talk to the board.
And it's always a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, thanks for a good job.
Yeah. All right, so next on our agenda, yeah, you put all these together and I still can't find them.
Yeah, sure.
Amazing.
I know, so much paper, that's a lot of paper.
Thanks, John, drive safe.
Stay warm.
Ah, there it is, back there. All right, so, audit review, okay, so Conservation Commission,
Right.
Beaver, Deceivers.
I'm Ann Carey of the Conservation Commission, as you know. I am back again regarding the situation on Sand Hill Road, which began on December 21, 22, when the very nice dam was lost again. And I've talked further with Skip Lyle, and we are recommending that we go ahead with what he calls a beaver starter dam. It's not very much, and he's certainly not going to go out, tomorrow and do it. We'll wait till the weather is more amenable. We are somewhat concerned that the beavers are maybe feeling so harassed they're not staying where we want them, and hopefully the starter dam might give them a hint to come back where we do want them. It's simply going to be untreated spruce posts put across a little section of stream, vertical, and probably not that many, but we'll see. And that would be a structure on which they could maybe think, oh, this is a good place. We've already got a start. Let's put some more sticks here and construct a dam. So that's what we're looking at. As we discussed before, the price is about $500. The Conservation Commission is willing to, and/or private donations, we can come up with $200. And we were looking to the Select Board to both say that you think this is worth a try and hopefully put in $300 toward its cost. I don't have much more to say than that, but I'd be glad to try to answer questions.
Questions?
I just and other people have used this particular,
Yes,
I've heard
it mentioned before by other people.
and how successful, is there any way of knowing how successful it's been in the past? Or does it vary? Or, I'm sure.
I just heard some suggestions from state people at one point that other people had done this, but I didn't get any information back about how successful it had been.
Right.
But people seem to think this is something that might work. I don't have any other examples.
Right, yeah, I was just wondering if it would be interesting, well, of course, this person who's selling it is the one who's done it in other towns, or for other towns. But it would be interesting to hear from someone who's had it done,
Okay.
you know, how successful it was.
And the state folks, as I recall from a conversation you and I had, think this is a reasonable approach. They don't feel that there's an urgent need for it, but that if we want to encourage it in that location, this is a good way to approach it. Is that right?
Well, actually, the state information I got was like from 3 years ago.
Okay.
When we were talking about how we could, this was in another occasion when we had a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a very good run from when the Beavers first showed up after they were totally trapped out. They showed up in August 2013, and from then until June 2017, there was no problem with the dam washing out. There was no, Mary sort of kept up making sure the road didn't flood and keeping the fences, cleared and so on. And then from June 2017 on, it's been, at least 4 times that the dam has vanished. And I don't know whether over time beavers just decide, based on that information, not to stay there anymore,
Okay.
which is why I'm more worried than usual at this point. The other state reactions were, as the water levels go down, and we see that they're going down much more than they were in December, they're much lower. The pond's draining, as we saw it do last summer. And, the idea was some of the turtles will die, some of the amphibians, overwintering will die, some won't, some will make it. If we can get the pond back, it will probably repopulate. And most of the attitudes were that in the spring, the beavers might very well come back on their own. And so what I'm just would like, but we also know that they've moved and are building some dams in the Putney Central School forest area now. Because they've, had in May, they had some rising waters in the forest from new dams up that way. So we're not, that would be a less advantageous spot for them to be in, even in terms of the road. We don't want them upstream, we want them downstream. So we really thought this would be worth a shot. And we don't think it's an excessive amount of money.
Yeah.
And I'd be, glad to try to get some feedback on
It would just
where
be
this might have
interesting
been
to find
done.
out, whether or not they were put in a bunch of places and none of them worked.
What happens, the information that we really have a lot of comes more from the western part of the United States, and what they're called beaver dam analogs, where people really, and the other thing is that you cannot, they go in with equipment, with machines, they pound these posts in, and then they actually start a dam, they take it, even a step further. And then once that's there, they have found that even when they don't think they have beavers in a particular stream area, they have found the beavers will come back and finish the dam and set up, a home. And then they start replenishing the groundwater supplies, which out west is what they are really worried about. But as far as just this very rudimentary, inexpensive approach, I don't have any feedback.
Well, and it sounds like if you were to get those posts put in, if a group of volunteers decided to, they could certainly go and add some dam material to it if they chose.
We could, but I think the beavers
Might
are
not,
better.
might not,
at-
absolutely, might not be necessary, yeah. right.
And
Leave it to
hopefully it
Beaver.
won't be necessary.
Well, I think it would be interesting to hear the information Steve requested. As I sort of said before, and I mean, my feeling would be, I think you should sort of assume the support of the select board. I mean, if you get that information and, 22 people out of 22 people say, no, it didn't work, then maybe we don't go ahead. But like you say, Skip's not planning on doing this right away anyway, so I think we...
Yeah, I'm all for it if
Okay,
it works, yeah,
we
absolutely.
have to get this done before you go.
Yeah,
Mr. Fairman,
still
go
all
ahead.
for it.
Mr. Chairman, the last time this was discussed, I've forgotten the date now, but I chanced to be here. And I asked whether the state of Vermont's beaver biologist had been consulted about this specific situation, and the answer was no. And I understand that the state's beaver biologist still has not been consulted, so my question is, why not?
The beaver biologist has been consulted by email. He did send a response. I forwarded that response to Karen, and I assume you all got it also. His response was that, well, he was pretty angry actually, but he basically was of the opinion that in the spring the beavers would likely come back. But he said it very much is contingent on whether or not you're able to protect the beavers in the area so that they're there to come back. That was where he was focused. He was worried about the fact that this land is posted, school property is posted, but if someone is trapping, for instance, and the Mulcahy Trust land is posted, but if people are moving in there and trapping or shooting beaver, and they're not there.
Which we have no evidence of.
We have no evidence of that at the time.
Yeah.
But that was where his concern was focused, even though we weren't reporting any of this activity happening.
This is Chris? Is
Chris Bernier.
Yeah, okay.
And so, but you didn't consult him specifically about this system of planting the posts?
No, it was another person at the state a couple years ago,
Do you want to just check with him so we have it on the record?
if you want.
That would be great. Yeah. Does that sound fair?
It does, Mr. Chairman. I probably should add that it happens that one of my sons is a wildlife biologist for the province of British Columbia. His mother is Canadian. And were he here, he would point out that if something is natural, it may not be appropriate to manage nature because nature is, and sometimes nature is cruel.
Yeah.
So I simply, I'm glad to hear that you have asked for the state to comment on this specific situation at this time. Thank you.
Yeah. No,
And I
and
also-
I think in
We have been dealing
in
with this
general,
in
agree with you.
2013, and we have not done anything but wait. And then we feel other people are interfering. And if they,
But you just feel that, we don't know that. I mean, I know there are strong feelings about that, but we don't have any evidence of it. We don't know.
yeah, but I think we've been very good about not interfering, and that's
I agree.
generally my approach.
Yeah.
And I agree with your son that, you know, it's always a toss-up, and that's why this is such a light touch kind of approach that we're trying
Right.
to take.
We're just trying to encourage them to build where we want them to build.
That's correct.
Which they may or may well not do.
Yeah,
And of
we
course,
can't guarantee that they'll do it.
the other thing is if they do, we might discover for some reason it was the wrong place to have them built. So I think that's where the management of nature
Yeah,
part comes in.
It
But
did, you know, when they had the dam there for that first, 4 solid years, no problem.
yeah,
So it seems like it is possible to have a dam there and keep things balanced.
and it's a reasonably
And,
inexpensive experiment. I guess.
Right.
So,
And maybe we'll have a big warm spell in the next 2 weeks and the beavers will show up and start building, you never know.
And then we don't worry about it. But actually, we are supposed to have warm weather next week. So, all right.
It's raining.
Well, yeah. So if you can just keep us posted and let us
Yeah.
know what Chris Bernier says. Chris, right?
Yep.
Yes. That'd
And
be
can
great.
you also get like a invoice or estimate?
Yeah, I'd be glad to do that.
Just so we have
Yeah,
so we have
yeah,
documentation.
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's something like solid that we can
Right.
present here.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so next item on our agenda is certificate of highway mileage. Thanks, Ann.
Sure, you're welcome.
What about the rescue contract renewal?
Well, you threw that right in between those two, didn't you? Yes, the rescue contract renewal was in fact the next item on our. So I'm
So-
assuming this is boilerplate for what we have
is.
had before, with the exception of an increase.
And those are your rates right there for 3 years.
So this is entering into a 3-year contract, or this is entering into a 1-year contract based on these rates?
No, it's a 3-year contract and those are the rates.
Okay.
Okay.
And is that, I can't remember, is that typically what we've done before, 3-year contracts?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we just,
Okay.
yeah, she did.
Looking for paper that's not there.
And that's everything they offer and
So, let's see, so the total amount, it's based on population of 2702, and it's an assessment of $23.54 per person, which comes out in fiscal year 2019-20 to $63,605.08, and then it increases incrementally up to $64,902 in 21-22, which is a, I don't know what that percentage increase is, but that's a relatively small increase
it's very
compared
small.
to
I was
annual increases
surprised.
that we've seen in the past.
I'm
So,
very surprised.
so if anybody wants to look at that. Otherwise, do we need to approve this tonight, or? I mean, do you want, we've seen this before, I don't know whether you want a copy of it and.
There's a
spend
copy
time
in
on it,
your
or-
packet.
Yeah, there is.
Right.
Just out of curiosity, how much should we pay per person on the last contract? Do you remember?
It should be
Is
right
it
on
in
that.
there?
23 is the current.
For last
No, the
year,
current,
yeah,
right,
yeah, right.
It's increasing 1% per year is what they've proposed, which is a lower increase than it's been any time in my memory.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so 16-17, it was $61,146.
Okay.
And it looks like 17-18.
It's a lot better.
Right. It didn't go up, and then 18-19, it's $62,984.
And, one of the places that this became a large point of discussion was a number of years ago when they had to do a very significant incremental increase over 3 years. A significant jump in 1 year and then significant jumps the next couple of years.
Right.
And there was sort of a lot of pushback on
Yeah.
that and said, you guys need to figure out other funding sources, et cetera, in order to try and keep this. So I'm assuming that's
Tom and I met with Drew
Drew.
last year,
Yeah.
and Tom's very good about negotiating. Of course, they have a good relationship. So, I mean, that's a pretty good contract amount right there.
Oh, yeah, I was,
Especially with what rescue is dealing with the opioids and, all the calls that they're getting. And I've heard the community too express their approval with rescue.
yeah, well, I know the community really
Yes,
likes rescue.
yeah.
Are we getting a large number of opioid calls in Putney?
I can't answer that question because I don't know.
Do they give us a kind of a summary of?
I don't get a
number of
report
calls?
from them like we get from,
That'd be interesting.
They could,
Sheriff's
I'm sure they could
Department.
provide
But,
that for us.
I think there should be some sort of report, and I think Tom might get that.
Have that.
Okay.
So,
That'd be interesting to see.
mhm.
All right, so do we want to go ahead and approve this?
I would make the recommendation to have you make a motion.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move to approve the contract with Rescue Inc. for the next 3 years, starting fiscal year 19. For, where are we at?
In the amount of-
In the amount of $63,605.08.
Correct.
And then increasing incrementally
Subsequent
1% per year.
Yeah, approximately 1% per year. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yep.
All right.
I second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded to approve a 3-year contract with Rescue Inc. First year being in the amount of $63,605.08, and then with an annual increase of 1% for the contract period, and subject to the terms of the agreement. If there is no further discussion, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we approve Karen as the
Okay.
municipal agent to sign it.
Let's hear that.
All right, so now the certificate of highway mileage. I was so excited about it, I jumped the gun. So, this is basically just, I don't, did you do this last year?
No.
This is essentially us, we get funds for
Revenue.
road repairs, paving, et cetera, based on the amount of mileage of each of the different types of roads that we have. So we just have to, and this, I don't believe probably would have changed this year from last year.
No, our highway mileage has not changed. We haven't added any new roads and we have not abandoned any.
Which,
So what would
So-
change that is like if a private road changed to a
Yes.
town
okay,
road.
exactly,
Or
becomes
vice versa.
public, or if we throw off a road that's a, class 3 or class 4, then it changes it. But we didn't have any changes this year, so.
And just to add, so the state highway funds that we do get because of this certification is about $122,000 a year.
So it's not insignificant, and it's
No.
based on the mileage of each of the different classes, so.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve the certificate of highway mileage for the year ending February 10th, 2019 as presented.
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You want to just sign that first? Sure.
Sign it in red.
Yeah. This one's working again too. We'll take that one back, thanks. All right.
Still here, yeah.
We've done the audit review and approval. So town meeting preparation. First item under town meeting preparation is budget approval.
I'm gonna move this around a little bit. Because
Okay.
after I got to thinking about what we need to get accomplished tonight and adding the gravel pit to this, there is a sequence.
Okay.
So we need to discuss social agency appropriations first, because that could affect the budget.
Okay.
So Josh, you weren't here last time,
Under it, but
but Groundworks Collaborative wrote us a letter,
Yeah.
and
And they're requesting, would they have the 3
yes,
allocations?
either the 3 allocations or move them into tier B.
And Groundworks is my employer, so I have to.
Abstain, yes.
Yeah.
Just to let you know too, whatever we do here will change the budget.
So,
So I did the
If-
math, because they had 2 other organizations, they all merged into one.
right,
So there should be 3 allocations of $847, which would come up to $2,541 in Group C. If the select board were to go ahead and move and give them 3 allocations. Now, if you choose to put them in Group B, it's an amount of $3,775.
no.
Which is
Because
higher.
Group B would be divided by 6 instead of 5.
Correct.
So it would be, so it would go to, it would also increase all the Group C numbers as well.
Yeah,
So let's see, we're gonna clearly have to figure out, well, I mean, I guess this is a first year issue for both of these issues, but we're gonna have
Correct.
to figure out how to manage these.
I think we need to
Differently.
revise the policy.
It's either revise the policy or, yeah, or revise criteria for a category, or I'm not sure how we're gonna do
So
that.
I did a little research, and VLCT has a model policy for social service agencies.
And is it significantly different than ours?
Yeah, and I have not found any municipality that does it like Putney. They do flat rates.
Have you found any municipality that does anything like Putney?
So I don't have this, I don't have anything to compare our Putney appropriations to. Again, everyone does a flat amount usually. And I understand.
It's not tiered, you mean?
Yeah,
Right.
it's not tiered.
Okay.
And some are really, like $1,000 is what I've seen. But, I mean, that's not to say we have to follow that.
I wonder what the history on it is, why it was started as a tiered.
I think I handed out
Yeah,
that
that-
policy,
Which was old.
right?
It is old. It was revisited at one point, but I don't think significant changes were made to that time, at that time.
Because I think one of the things we looked at with the groups was, they say providing significant level.
Right.
What
Of
is that?
service.
What does that
Exactly,
mean?
Right.
yeah.
Is that a percentage or,
Is
how-
it based
how's
on people? I mean, because
Right.
each organization has a different service.
And, the hard thing when you start getting down to that analysis is how to analyze, well, a couple things. One, how many Putney residents, the Putney-based agencies are the Putney-based agencies, that's pretty straightforward. But all of these agencies have tremendous crossover in the services they provide, both for different populations and across town borders, et cetera. So trying to nail that,
Right.
trying to have accurate information on that is hard. I think having good sound guesses is not that hard.
Right.
But I'm not sure it's a whole, I'm sure there's a tremendous amount of data available from all of these organizations. How to break it down and have it meaningful for us, and that discussion process is a little tricky. So if we just straight up took them from Group C and moved them into Group B, all of the Group Cs would get $3,145.83.
Group B, you mean?
Group B, sorry.
Okay.
31.
So there would be 6 in Group B, and it would be $3,146. And there would be 7 in Group C, which would each get $968. It seems to me, based on previous year's numbers, and this is just my recollection, so it may not be accurate at all, but that as it is now, the Group C portion, those are becoming much larger numbers because it's a smaller group.
Right.
My recollection is it wasn't that long ago that was more like $400 or $500.
Yeah.
So, it's awfully late in the season to try and juggle any of this right now. So I think we probably sort of have to make an arbitrary decision as to whether to give 3 allotments to groundworks or whether to move them to Group B, and then we need to look at this over the next year.
Well, if you gave them 3 in Group C,
10,
so we have 1, 2, 3.
10, then they all.
Oh, then they all go down.
Down,
Nine,
670.
Yeah, so we could still stick to this number, 48,399. We just.
Right, no, that's what I'm doing also.
Yeah, yep.
No, but you're
Okay.
right, it would, if we, that 2541 is
Right.
based on 847,
Yeah.
when in fact it would decrease
Yes.
all of those.
Yep.
So,
They get $677.
when did that merger take place?
It's been a few years, it's been a couple years.
It's been in the works for quite a while. Did it legally take place more? Because last year it was, when we funded it, was 3 different organizations, is that correct?
No.
Or not? It was
No.
one,
It was
and
2
we
years
only
ago.
funded
Right.
one. So,
And And see, they didn't realize it until,
This time around.
right.
See, and I don't think we really can put 3. Like, we can't put something back in that doesn't even exist now. Unless we said groundworks collateral.
Especially since we didn't fund it. Right, exactly. Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. So we could choose to move it into Group B. The other thing we do is because it's a significantly smaller number of organizations this year than it has been in the past, their allotment is actually bigger than it has been in the past. I know it's not the equivalent of 3, but it might be that that's the fairest way for us to do it this year, and then we revisit it next year. I'm just not looking at you because you can't participate.
Very uncomfortable.
You know, I of course don't want to short them money, but I'm not sure it's appropriate for us to move them into Group B without knowing what. Well, I guess if we base it on the fact that they used to provide the service of 3 of the Group Cs, then one could
Right.
say that sounds like a significant level of service to Putney residents. I have no idea.
Did it state in your letter?
So drop in. Yeah, I was looking at that again. So. I guess the way I see it,
Yeah, so they served 158 residents, and they estimated they spent about 3.7% of their overall budget, $54,200.
That's their overall budget?
Yeah, so,
I'm all for it, and then full disclosure, I know Josh pretty well too.
$1,626.
And I'm all for helping it. I guess the thing is the precedent it sets, and so like something definitely has to happen in a hurry, no matter what we do to update.
Well, and we typically request these letters of request by the middle of December.
Right, and I did explain to them that it was a little late.
Yeah, no, and I definitely understand sort
Right.
of why they're applying at this stage.
Yep.
I'm just not sure.
And Maura, are they associated with the food bank as well?
It's there. Well, the Vermont Food Bank is a separate organization, but yes, they
Yeah.
Do
Participate.
distribution,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. But they're not saying their overall budget is 54,200, is that right?
I can't believe that, because
That can't, is that right? No.
I don't think it can be.
No, I wouldn't think so. No.
I was gonna say that ours would be a significant percentage of their budget.
I wonder if it's just speaking to. Because there's the Morningside, formerly known as Morningside Shelter, the Overflow Shelter, the Food Shelf, and then the Day Shelter, the drop-in. And each has its own budget.
I don't know. I don't have a good answer. I mean, you know, we're putting 2 in up here for Putney Cares, and I know we've been
Right.
transparent about that the whole time. We haven't been transparent about this the whole time, but maybe we double it for them this year and say that before next year, we'll have a different system.
Split the difference kind of thing.
I mean, does
Yeah.
that seem fair-ish?
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
yeah.
Just leave the room.
Talk to the hand.
Well, my recommendation would be to, you know, do the 3 in Group C, so you split it 10 ways.
That would be 3, that's if you did them 3.
Right,
So if we did 2, I'm saying we,
so do it by 9.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, split the difference. I guess
All right,
you're gonna catch it for this.
this is starting to look like town meeting.
We might not, yeah, who knows, but
They didn't hear me.
yes.
All right,
No.
so $752.88.
So they would get an allotment of 1,500 and
Right.
Right.
that is. Okay, so, and it sounds like this has been going on for 3 years, so.
Mhm.
It happened again, right? I think right at the end of the year.
When they merged.
Yeah.
3, so
Yeah,
instead of
so
3
it's
years ago, it was
just-
just over,
Yeah.
so 2 years ago, just over 3.
Yeah, I wanna say it's been 2 full years, but.
That's what,
Right,
exactly,
Yeah.
and, yeah, a little bit beyond that, so.
14,
All right,
15, so
well-
yeah, they didn't end up with 1,500.
Sound fair?
I think so. I think that's the way of assuaging some
So-
Yeah.
potential.
And it doesn't change our budget.
Exactly, no,
Right.
which is what we can't do at this point.
Right.
And it also doesn't sort of, I know none of this is punitive, but it doesn't remove from the Group B
Right.
in a significant way.
Right.
So, at least for this year, it keeps their funding reasonably stable.
Another recommendation is that all of these agencies come in front of the board personally and, give a report. I know we request a report for the town report,
Yeah,
but I think it's important, and if we start it early, then you can determine if we should restructure the way we do this.
yeah, I think we'd have to think pretty hard
Mm-hmm.
what we're asking of them if they're coming before us, because otherwise, whether we sort of have a form
Mm-hmm.
and a format for that to happen,
Right.
because otherwise we would be a little willy-nilly. But I think that's a good idea. I think we just would want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
In a concise way.
Exactly. Yeah, and, honestly, most of this really should be data-driven. And as I said, analyzing the data in a way that makes sense is going to be hard because there's so many different organizations. But,
Right.
we should have some way to
Determine.
base it on
Yeah.
numbers and
Yeah.
return for our investment for all practical purposes. I know that's not what we're talking about, but.
Ideally, we come up with some kind of a spreadsheet.
Exactly, if you serve X number or in
Right.
excess of this amount
Yeah.
of funding or this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's sort of what I'm thinking, is that there would be something formulaic about it, and we ask them to provide data for us that they might not otherwise provide unless we specifically ask for it. So. Okay, so,
So do we need a motion for this?
probably wouldn't be a bad idea. I will make a motion to allocate 2 allocations in Group C to the Groundworks Collaborative. And that is a 1-year allocation while we review social service agency contributions before next year.
All right, that's second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve 2 allocations for the Groundworks Collaborative in Group C. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And
I'm abstaining.
Laura abstains.
Okay.
All right. So that's gonna, we might want to find a committee to, think about a committee to
Okay.
That would be the way to do
look
it.
at that for us, because, all right, so, what do you want to do next, Karen? Does it matter for your sequencing or not?
What did that, yeah, so budget approval at this point.
Do we need to discuss anything on gravel pit before we look at
No, because
budget? Because that came
No.
out of highway.
because the town warning is with the resolution with the gravel pit stuff, okay?
Okay,
So if you approve the budgets, the articles reflect the budgets,
right,
so that's, yeah,
one and the same.
right.
All right, so any significant changes in budget that we should be aware of that have occurred?
So the general fund in the pool department, I did have to adjust the pool labor. So it went from $19,030 up to $23,000. So minimum wage right now is $10.78. And we were over budget in 18 on pool salaries. So it's next to the last page, Steve, sorry.
Right here.
Right here.
Oh, there we go.
Pool labor. But if you notice in 18, we're at 21,799.
You know,
So minimum wage went up. We have about 16 lifeguards. So, and this is being very conservative. So that's like a $3,000 increase. Not significant, but it is an increase.
now why doesn't that show as a percent variation? 0% doesn't show up, there's a change on the,
Right.
there's a change on the right-hand line, but it doesn't show as a variation in percentage.
Right, fix that.
But it's,
It
yeah.
is in the subtotal though.
Oh, you're right.
I just
Yeah,
missed
I
that.
was just gonna say 50, it's roughly 15%, so yeah, it's 14.69. Yeah,
Yeah, we didn't have any fun with this.
What do you mean? We had all kinds of fun.
She says with a tick.
It was very frustrating, but we got through it, right? Yeah. So that is the only change. Yeah, the bottom line here. So general budget is up 15.92%. Now, again, we have to remember too that we do have, we're showing revenue and grants. So Tom's grant of $182,000 for his equipment, that's in there. So that's part of your increase. I didn't have time to pick it apart and be specific with certain things. But the general fund budget does balance, which is always a good thing.
Yeah, that's nice of that.
one thing we don't have anything listed as, and I don't think we've talked about this anytime recently, is building improvements in town hall maintenance. We might want to add something there.
We do have some money in the reserve fund.
Okay, so we could,
There's There is 36,000 in an undesignated reserve fund,
okay,
so we can take from
if
there.
we chose to do that.
If we choose to
Okay.
do that. What do you,
Since we haven't specifically identified any improvements, maybe we
Right.
don't try and budget
except for
that.
the front doors,
Right,
I think those should be a priority.
yes.
Before next
All
time.
right, all right.
Come by tomorrow and stand in the hall for that.
Yeah, nice day tomorrow.
And you're right, Josh, I think it's important, but until we figure out how we're gonna renovate.
Yeah, well, the other thing we used to do, and I don't know when the last time we did this, is we essentially put not a lot of money, but a little bit of money into that line item and just said, so that each year we were sort of figuring out a step forward.
Right.
And I think we could keep doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think next year,
we
because
should,
we'll have a better handle
yeah,
on this process.
yeah,
And like I've seen things already that,
that need improvement, maybe.
maybe, yeah.
Seeing things right now.
I need to be politically correct.
No, well, what we struggled with in the past, I mean, there was, a long time ago, there was a big proposal to do a complete renovation of this building to the
Right.
tune of, $600,000 or something, and that didn't happen. And so a number of years ago, we made that decision to say, let's put, I can't even remember what it was, $20,000 a year or something into
Away, yeah.
improvements.
Yeah.
And we insulated the basement, we insulated the roof system, we changed, did a variety of different things, but that's all been done. But we should probably keep doing that, just to sort of stay ahead of the curve
Okay.
for town hall. So, but I don't need it to be in there this year, but I think we should do it.
No, there's
Since
some
there's,
money.
since there's money available.
Yeah, yeah.
But we might want to think about trying to identify one or two things that we
The other
might
thing,
take
because
on.
you bring that up, is the Historical Society.
Oh,
We met with
good
them,
point, yeah.
and we never got back to them with a definite plan. So I was asked,
To revisit that.
we should revisit that, and if they end up with a lease upstairs for 99 years.
Right.
Then we can work with them.
Yes.
And that would be the time to start thinking about
Yeah.
putting money
A
away
budget. Yeah.
and securing grants.
Yeah.
Because it's a historic building, it's gonna take a while,
Yeah.
because you can't just do anything.
Mhm.
But we can work with them. Once we write them a letter, you decide that's gonna be a permanent home for them.
All right. So, anything else on here you want to point out for us, or seems pretty?
No, I'm comfortable with it.
for- And you and I talked about this, but what does this represent overall change from last year, and how would that likely affect our tax rate?
So on this page here,
Yeah,
it's with the highway budget as well.
so that page in
And
there.
it did go up because the highway budget went up as well.
Right.
So 0.0644 is the difference from last year and this year.
So it's a little less than a penny.
Right.
And just as a reminder, a penny increase on the tax rate increases our income by roughly $22,000 a year, I think it is at this point.
Yeah, about almost 24,000.
Almost 24.
Yeah,
I guess it would be yeah. And that also translates then into a roughly $20, a penny translates into roughly a $20 per $100,000 of land value for a homeowner. So if you had a $100,000 home and our tax rate goes up by a penny, you're paying an additional $20 per year.
right.
All right, anything on the highway? Let's see, sir. Do I hear a motion to approve the general fund budget as presented?
Yes, so moved.
I second it.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the general fund budget as presented. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Highway budget, anything, let's see, so you want
I did change
to
that.
talk about the changes on that?
Yep, so again, we have the paving grant in here for $175,000. Holton Brook Road, the culvert is in here as well. And I think that was in there for 200,000. Let me see.
It's in for 200,000.
Yeah,
And that's basically a similar project to what we've done on both Hickory Ridge Road and Holland Hill Road over the last couple of years.
Correct.
A significant box culvert that crosses over on sort of an angle, so.
yeah. I did add in here on the last page. Was that Jonathan? All right.
Hope not.
On the last page, under debt service and capital plan, so direct capital expenditures, Josh, you and I talked about this
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
So we added $25,000, and that is for any initial expenses that might be related to the gravel pit if that article passes.
So if the article doesn't pass, that would leave us with an additional 25,000 in that category
Correct,
unspent.
right. We have the equipment purchase too, 175,000 is in here. Because there is an article for a new dump truck for the highway department. So their budget overall is 28.19% higher. Again, you have to remember that we have the grants in there, we're showing grant money.
But we're not showing grant revenue.
No, the revenue's in there as well. So you have revenue and you have expense. So it
So that 20,
offsets.
okay,
Well,
but
not
that
for-
28.19%
Yeah,
is largely because of that grant money.
correct.
But shouldn't that zero out because it shows as both a revenue and as an expense or not?
It doesn't, well, it balances.
It does in one, it
Yes,
does in
right,
one location
right.
and not in the other.
Yeah,
Like your total percent.
right, and those match too. So your revenue is raised because of the grants, but then your expenditures are raised because of,
Total highway
Yeah.
expenses, I see.
right.
Yeah.
So it agrees.
Right, so,
balances,
right, so
yes,
that
yeah.
20, I'm just trying
Right,
to, so that's not an increase of 28.19% in the amount we need to raise from taxes,
No,
which is
no.
actually down, right?
Right,
That's all I'm trying to
right, yep.
clarify in both my own mind and, so if you look at, right at the beginning of the highway budget, you
Correct,
see the revenue from property taxes, and that went from needing us to raise 836,000 to 833,000, so that's
Correct.
actually a decrease.
yep,
But because of these grants, it shows in the total proposed budget a significant increase.
yes. Both budgets too are pretty much level funded, except for the grants.
But again, those are a wash, so.
Right.
Those must have matches though, don't they?
The grants?
But that's accounted for.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep. So the changes in both budgets too was mostly with insurance, which medical insurance was the highest.
Of course.
You know, general fund, we had some departments went down, library went up. Highway went up by quite a bit, because we added 2 employees onto the insurance. So, I mean, right now, we pay out probably like 12,000, a little more than 12,000 a month for medical insurance. That's a big number.
Yeah.
Not much we can do to alter it though.
Yeah.
We can shop around, but I don't know if we're gonna get the same apples to apples.
Right.
But by next year, we might have a better picture about that.
Is it Blue Cross, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's a really good plan, but
It's also, you know, I mean, we shuffle this around
All right,
occasionally, and, you know, the other thing you have to take into consideration, and I know you are taking into consideration, is the inconvenience for all the employees if there's
Right.
significant shifts in the plans.
yeah,
You know, I mean, not that we want to throw our money away, but I think there is some value in having
Yeah.
some consistency for that, so.
yeah.
um,
So the Wyndham County Sheriff's Department back into the general fund budget, Josh, because you weren't here. So I left in the budget 2,000 hours
Oh, okay,
at $81,300,
okay.
okay?
But we decided to go with or we haven't decided.
Well, we don't have a number for the in-between.
Right,
We did get a letter from the Sheriff's Department. They recommended between 1,500 to 1,600
Right, yeah,
hours for the
yeah.
year.
yeah,
But they, like Steve said, they didn't give us an
a
hourly
price
rate.
on that, okay.
So
That's
that,
fine.
that number
Absolutely.
can change
Yeah,
at town meeting.
it could change at town meeting or, yes, yeah,
There may be a discussion,
yes.
so,
So leave the higher number in, and if it gets switched down, then it gets switched down.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah, no. I think
But they can
that's-
change it on the floor.
Do we know?
Well, they can change the budget on the floor, they can't change a line item on the floor.
Okay.
So, that could be the topic of discussion, would
Right.
be the contract with the sheriff's department, and people might say, yes, we want it to go from 80 to 72. But that's a recommendation to reduce the overall budget by 8,000.
Right,
And we would take that into consideration
Yeah,
in considering where we spent that money.
Right.
Obviously, we would most likely do what people wanted, but
Yeah.
just so it's clear that it's not a line item adjustment, because that cannot be done from the floor. So,
salaries too are in at 3%, so
yeah.
that, I don't have the COLA. We don't usually get that until spring,
Right.
but of course that's your,
I think it's gonna be
Discretion,
pushing
too.
3%. I think the COLA adjustment is proposed to be pushing 3% anyway, isn't it? I think
That's what I
so.
heard, yeah.
Two
Yeah.
point
2.8.
something or
Okay.
2.8,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
so, I mean, we accounted for that. So I think both budgets are conservative and,
Okay. So, motion to approve the highway budget as presented.
So moved.
And seconded.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fiscal year 2021 highway budget as proposed. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
thank you.
so now,
Thank you.
thank you, yeah. Thank you both.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Yeah. So gravel pit before town warning? Probably.
Yes, yep. Do you want to give a summary of what happened today?
We had a meeting with, both with Hugh Warden, who's the select board member from Dummerston, who's been involved in the gravel pit, and with both our legal counsel and Dummerston's legal counsel about the gravel pit project. There are a couple things we need to approve. Basically, this is homework that has to be done in order to get bond funding. These are essentially documents that are either required or recommended by whoever it is that reviews the municipal bonds for recommendation, and I can't remember what his title is, but Nick Giuliani, I think is Paul Giuliani is his
yeah,
name.
yeah.
So these are presented as he recommended based on what Larry, our counsel, and Bob Fisher
yeah.
recommended to Dummerston to cover all of the sort of dot the i's and cross the t's so that when it comes to asking for the bond to be issued, that all of this is done. So,
And it has to be done in a certain way.
so we need a resolution certificate. In order for there to be a resolution certificate, which basically essentially allows us to verify that Putney is a legitimate entity to receive this bond issuance, and this has to be attested to by the town clerk. In order for him to provide a resolution certificate, we need to approve a resolution to
Correct. Yep.
cover all of these items. So I'm going to go ahead and read them as a proposed motion.
Yeah, you can just read
You
the,
could, it'll all be right here.
I'm gonna read
So,
that later.
So I would entertain a motion to approve resolution states that resolved that the public interest and necessity demand the acquisition of the so-called Renewal gravel pit in the town of Dummerston at an estimated cost of $2 million and its management and operation under an interlocal contract with the town of Dummerston, and be it further resolved that the cost of constructing such improvements after application of available state and federal grants in aid and the application of available reserves will be too great to be paid out of the annual revenue of the town, and be it further resolved that a proposal for the issuance of general obligation bond or notes of the town in the aggregate amount not to exceed $1,005,000. $1,005,000, that doesn't show the $5 on the printed
No, it
number,
doesn't.
so we should put that in there.
and it should be 1 million.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's there.
Right.
So we'll just change, so we'll cross out the 5.
Yeah.
So not to exceed $1 million to pay the cost of the town share of such improvements, subject to reduction through the receipt of any state or federal grants and aid. The application of reserves and other financial assistance should be submitted to the legal voters of the town at the annual meeting thereof, to be duly called and held on March 5th, 2019, and be it further resolved that all acts relating to the proposition of incurring bond indebtedness and the issuance of general obligation bonds or notes of the town for the purpose of constructing and operating said improvements within and without the corporate limits of the town be in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 53 of Title 24 Vermont statutes annotated, and be it further resolved that the attached proposition of making said public improvements and incurring bonded indebtedness therefore shall be included in the warning for the March 5th, 2019 annual meeting.
All right,
So moved?
so moved.
Seconded.
Seconded. So it's been moved and seconded to approve a resolution as presented to be certified by the town clerk. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Good job on that.
So next is again, basically the same thing. It's just documentation of our, this is called, the document is called a declaration of official intent of the town of Putney to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness.
Now,
And on this, all we need to do is approve this as presented.
yep, as written, you can give it, it can be an exhibit if you want to. You can,
Exhibit A.
okay.
So,
Yeah, you don't need to read the whole thing.
right. So Exhibit A is, as I said, a declaration of the official intent of the town of Putney to reimburse certain expenditures from proceeds of indebtedness. And I would entertain a motion to approve this declaration as presented.
Yep. So moved.
Seconded.
Been moved and seconded to approve Exhibit A as presented. And Exhibit A will be available for viewing. And again, this is basically bunch of boilerplate has to be done in order to apply for a bond. So it's been moved and seconded to approve the declaration of official intent. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Approved. There's your copy of A. You already have a copy probably, but, okay. So, and then we need to approve the official,
Yes, you
Ballot?
do. You need
Okay.
to make a motion to accept. And I would read
okay.
this out loud
Yes.
for the public.
Okay, so this is the official ballot document for presentation at town meeting, well, presentation in the town report for town meeting, of the article to approve or disapprove of the funding of gravel pit. So I'll just read the whole document as it is. This is the official ballot, Town of Putney Annual Meeting, March 5th, 2019. Explanation of article, the Town of Putney seeks voter approval to incur bonded indebtedness for the purpose of financing the joint purchase with the Town of Dummerston of the 32 plus or minus acre Renewal gravel pit in the Town of Dummerston for the purpose of extraction of gravel for use in constructing and maintaining their highways and other lawful purposes for a purchase price not to exceed $2 million shared equally with each town paying $1 million toward the purchase price. So the article itself reads, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the Town of Putney in the amount not to exceed $1 million bearing interest at a rate not to exceed 4.25% for a term not to exceed 25 years be issued for the purpose of financing the purchase of 32 plus or minus acres Renewal gravel pit in Dummerston, Vermont, jointly with the Town of Putney, Vermont? Question mark. And then the two possible options are, if in favor of the article, make a cross in this square. If opposed to the article, make a cross in this square. So we just need a motion to approve that ballot as presented.
I move to approve the ballot as presented.
I second that.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve the official ballot for a vote on a bond for the purchase of the gravel pit in the amount of $1 million. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So, the certificate of posting we don't need to do yet.
No, this is a checklist.
Okay.
So these 3 items we've already done on the checklist. So I will be monitoring this checklist and we'll be going down it. And as we complete a task, and this is required.
Right, for upon purpose. And
Correct.
very basically, the warning sequences for a bond article are different than they are for the standard article warnings. So what we're planning to do is, for example, this has to be posted in 5 places instead of 3 places.
Correct.
It also has to be posted 3 consecutive weeks in the newspaper, in our paper of record, as opposed to just being posted once or twice, I think it is. So, so that time clock starts soon. Exactly.
Now,
So,
and just to clarify, it's not just that article, it's our entire warning. 3
because
times.
it includes this article.
Correct.
Okay, so, which is different than it would be in a year that we did not have a bond article on it.
Right.
So we just need to be, again, this is sort of dotting i's and crossing t's to make sure that we're covered. So, yeah, and the starting of the warning period begins 30 days in advance of town meeting, which is like next Monday-ish, so, or not even, I think it might be Friday. Anyway,
Yeah, I think-
so this needs
yeah.
to be, so
Right, so
time
this
is of the
is,
essence.
that's the next step, is
So-
making sure this gets in the paper.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything related to
No.
this, we're just
No.
recognizing
No.
that it exists and that we need to take the
Correct.
steps as they are.
How do you choose the additional places where you're gonna post it?
Well, it's gotta be a public place where it can be seen. So we have the website, post office, library,
And historically, we have done
co-op.
the co-op,
Mhm.
and there used to be a posting board at the general store, so we'll
Yeah.
decide whether those, I
Right.
don't know whether they still have a posting
The
board
school,
over
I
here.
don't know,
School.
the school.
I don't know if they ever have, but that's.
Yeah,
it's
Wouldn't be a bad place for
It's a
it.
great
Right,
place.
Yeah.
right.
Would
So
make
we just
sense.
have to have 5.
So maybe we do the
places.
co-op and we do the school.
Yeah, because the co-op does have a board for the town.
Yes,
So,
and we typically post there even when we're
Yeah.
not required to, so.
right.
So out of curiosity, there's no real public place in East Putney, is there? Other than Pierce Hall, but that's
No,
not really
but that's
public.
not- no.
Yeah.
I
No,
mean,
that's not open.
Yeah,
Right.
And it's not somewhere anybody
so I
goes.
was just, yeah,
No, we really don't have.
no.
Sort of a posting point. No, school, I think the school's a good idea. So school, co-op,
Yeah,
no regular posting spots. And the website does count as a posting
Yes,
location?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. So our last item on this portion of the agenda is to approve the warning for the 2019 annual meeting.
What about the grand jurors?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're skipping tonight.
Yeah, but
like every
I don't-
other.
That doesn't affect
Exactly.
the articles?
I did the gravel pit. No, it doesn't.
No,
It's just the order that it's on here.
Right.
Being held to the order because it's appropriate.
so, no, I think the warnings you can do now.
Why don't we go ahead and get that
Yeah,
done, if that's
because-
okay?
No, that's fine by me. It's just-
You're messing with my mojo.
So
do
this,
that.
these are the articles that would be placed in the annual, in the town report,
Correct.
as well as posted.
In 3 different places.
Obviously, it's not going to be yes or no voting on this because that will be done by Australian ballot at the location, at the polling place.
Right.
So, and we don't need to, Articles 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all related to the school, so we
Correct.
don't have to consider those.
And the school is first this year,
Right.
so that's why they're in front.
So, anything on here, Karen, that we should specifically talk about? We just covered the bonded, obviously. Let's see, the truck. We're looking at the purchase of a truck
Yep. So that
in
is
the amount of
Article 11.
$175,000. And Karen and I talked today, you might recall last year, we purchased the truck in advance of town meeting. And we discussed whether we should, we could legally do this because we are able to purchase equipment for the highway department without voter approval. However, our practice over the years has been to have it as an article. Last year, we made an exception because we had a piece of equipment that failed and we needed to replace it
Yeah.
before we could warn it and vote on it. So, but it would be my preference to keep this article included as has been our practice in the past, just in the interest, if nothing else, of transparency and discussion. So,
There's only one exemption, which is the Yellow Barn Music School this year. Was it Catherine? Catherine came in and spoke to me, I can't remember her last name.
Catherine from, who's
Yellow
running for
Barn.
that?
Yeah,
Or, who's
Yes,
Catherine Stephanie?
yep, thank you. So we looked at the tax bill and we, determined it was like less than $1,000. So these are the pods at Greenwood School. So-
And it's just on the pods themselves?
Yes.
Right, it's
Yep.
not exemption,
Yep.
because they're, Greenwood School is exempt anyway.
Right,
So, I just noticed, Karen, and I don't know which one is correct. But the number you have on this paper for the total highway budget and the number you have on this paper do not.
The one on the actual
Agreed.
warning is correct.
It is, okay.
Let me see.
Because that's how much you need.
I think I gave it to you.
Oh, yeah.
You're okay, you're all right.
In town, it's, in here it's 1475, 102.
So that's general liability, right? I mean, general liability,
Yep.
sorry.
The
General fund,
right, is that guy, but then the other, it's the highway department that's a different number. 1490, oh, no, it isn't,
no,
sorry.
it's not.
Sorry.
It's okay, because
I'm just
You're
just
just
testing
testing
the
me,
waters.
I know.
Making sure you're paying attention.
where was my backup, Melissa?
I said the one on the actual article is the correct one because you have to look at it.
And you're correct, because
Yeah.
they're both correct,
Right,
so.
okay, so that makes me feel better.
Yeah, I heard a heart thumping or something.
I know, it's like anxiety.
I was just gonna say, look at the budget, you have it right there.
Yep, no, we're good, we're good.
No, we are good, so
Yeah.
I crossed those two numbers
So,
over. They're the same
I
one
believe
twice.
I captured everything, so,
Is Catherine Steffen gonna come in and
she is.
present?
Yeah,
Okay.
she'll be there if there's any questions.
Okay,
Um,
that's good.
yeah.
And then Article 9, so what happens if 8 passes but 9 doesn't?
Well, that one's just going into, well,
Well,
that'll be explained too.
That's a good
yeah.
question.
Right, because that can happen, I mean, but,
I can't imagine a sort of rational reason why that would happen. Does that mean it won't happen? No.
It's,
It's possible, you know, again, sort of like the things we were just approving, obviously, this is essentially just, it's a necessary article in order to
Operate,
engage
right.
in that interlocal agreement.
right,
I guess the answer would be if Article 8 passed and Article 9 didn't pass, then we would probably have to have an additional special town meeting in order to vote on that, would be my guess. But I don't know. And, you know,
I don't imagine that one will and the other won't, but
I
just playing
don't
devil's
either.
advocate.
Yeah, no, and in Article 9, you know, obviously if Article 8 passes, then this becomes pertinent. If Article
Right.
8 fails,
right.
then it's a moot point
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get blowback on that, but
It's a good question,
it is
because
a question.
we can prepare for it during the informational hearings, informational meetings.
well, this stuff.
Yeah, and why it is that, I guess the reason that this is, well, it's, we have to ask the voters for approval to enter into that agreement, into interlocal agreement.
Right,
And we separately have to ask the voters to approve the bond. So that's why they have to be, otherwise we could just have it as one single article, but for whatever reason, they have to be separate, so. I don't know, I guess the answer is wait and see pudding. See what, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then we go from there, but it would have to mean another special meeting, I would assume.
I think it's because it's related to the real estate, it's protection, liability.
Yeah, no, I mean, it
Right,
makes
right.
sense that we have to
Right.
approve an
Yes.
interlocal agreement.
Yeah,
It's just if Article 8, if Article 9 were to fail, yeah, you would think it would be incorporated in Article 8, but I don't know why that
Yeah.
is. Okay,
Everything else looks straightforward.
and somebody will be coming from the library to present their public library board.
yes, yep.
So, motion to approve the 2019
Just-
warning?
Just one question, with this sale, or purchase, I should say, when would the plan on that be occurring, in the next fiscal year?
It would be in fiscal year
1920?
1920, right? Is that right, or is
Right.
that 2021? 1920. So, yes.
No chance it'll affect the budget.
No,
Well, yeah, we've talked about that. That 25,000 that Karen
Right.
included in the
Oh,
highway
right,
Yes.
that's right, that's
Yeah.
right.
is to do that.
Just
But-
so that's
first
in
year.
20, but we're not gonna see a payment until 21.
Okay.
Mm,
You
20,
still have to serve?
Yes,
right.
Oh, okay.
pardon?
So the bond would be issued, the times, bonds are only issued twice a year, once in August and once in November.
Right,
So depending on, but even if it's issued in August, the first payment would not be due until August of the following year, is that
Correct.
correct?
correct.
And that's just the nature of the
Yeah.
piece. So that you do, because we had talked about that
Right.
as to whether we should allocate, because it's roughly a $50,000 a year payment.
Yes.
So we had talked about whether we needed to add $50,000 to this budget so
Yeah.
that we'd have money to pay that.
Right,
Legal counsel's advice was that it was not necessary.
right.
Um,
And right now, the rate is at 4.25. We don't know.
What's gonna happen?
It could be lower, which
I
would,
doubt it.
We hope, but
Yeah,
it could be. We just don't know yet, so.
Hmm.
But we're looking at 50,000 for a payment.
okay.
so, yeah, no, but sort of pertinent to that question you're asking, there's really nothing in the budget we just approved
Right,
related to
Right.
this, except for that 25,000 that we approved, which would go towards essentially down payment, because a down payment would be due at the time of the signing of a purchase and sales,
right,
Right.
and legal fees involved,
yeah,
which are seemingly going to be fairly limited because much of it just falls within our monthly retainer anyway.
Right.
So it doesn't look like that's going to be a big expenditure.
no, because we have a $400 a month retainer, so,
So he chews that up first and then
Right.
goes from there.
and then we get billed.
And what the two lawyers have done, what Bob Fisher is representing Dummerston, Larry's representing us, and they have divided the tasks in a way so that, you know, they may not end up being exactly equal, but so that
Right.
they're essentially
They're kind of
equal.
washing,
Exactly.
yep,
That's what they're
yeah,
trying to
they're
do.
even,
So, but I asked that question
Right.
today too about the cost of legal, and Larry sort of said, well, you know, it's not gonna be a huge amount, so we don't know exactly what it'll be, but
yeah, so we are
Should be
gonna
included in that
incur
25,000.
some costs, but we just don't know how much yet. So we do have surplus too, that Josh and I talked about in the highway department, so there's that money too,
Right.
if,
if we,
If it goes
If we need it.
Right,
but,
which we should.
yeah, we're not gonna, it's there, but we don't intend on using it. Unless we have to,
Right.
so.
Okay, that's interesting, yeah. This is interesting, because we're not even gonna know the answer to this
Right,
right.
until that evening.
Right.
That evening, right.
And we, you know, oddly enough, technically, we're not allowed to discuss Australian ballot issue items from the floor. So,
Right, right.
But we're gonna need to discuss this, so.
Why don't we put this one first?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Well, we gotta make sure that we really, that the
So
meeting.
that's what the public meeting is
Right,
for.
yeah.
Right,
So,
right.
and the plan for that is that we have a public meeting, a
Scheduled.
joint town public meeting, scheduled on the 13th.
Right,
And then on the 27th, because we're required to have an actual public, I think it may be termed a public hearing about it, within 10 days of town meeting.
Right.
Because it's a bond issue.
yeah,
So on the 27th, right?
yeah,
27th is not
13th.
enough time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, 27th is,
One, two, three,
it's
four,
within
five.
10 days of town meeting.
Within 10
we have
days,
to have
yeah.
it.
Oh, I see, with
Yep.
okay. gotcha.
So our initial hearing will be on the 13th, and that's, you know, what we don't want The reason we did that is because if we just did it on the 27th and a whole bunch of stuff came to the surface that we hadn't dealt with, it wouldn't give us time to sort it out. So we thought, okay, let's do a hearing on the 13th, lay out all the information, and then the 27th will be both an official hearing within the required warned time period, as well as being an opportunity to sort of field questions on
Right.
stuff and do further follow-up on the joint meeting.
And the
we-
27th is on our own.
We've talked about that,
Right.
whether we would do it on our own or not. Probably on our own. You know, we talked also about maybe having a joint meeting that then we divide. You know, we don't want everybody to rehash everything twice for the two towns, so we're not
Yeah, and if
quite
people
sure.
have questions about, like, Dummerston specifically, you know,
We don't need to listen.
Yeah, we don't need to be sitting in on
Right.
that.
Do they know when they're doing theirs yet?
Same, exact thing. They're
Yeah.
doing the same thing.
So
It'd
we're.
be a shame it couldn't be on different days, so if someone wanted to go to someone else's.
Right.
We might be able to figure out the timing for that. I don't know what time their meetings are. Yeah, it's a good suggestion, though.
Yeah,
We should take that into account. I think they may do later meetings. I don't know whether they do. What
they
time?
have long meetings, I know that. Cause I'll leave here and they're still,
Still going.
yeah,
I think they may start later, though. I think they might start at 7.
I'm not sure, I can look it up.
So, because if they started at 7, if we did it
Right.
first thing 5:30 and then somebody wanted to,
Right.
they could. But that's a good idea. We should think about that.
So we'd like to have it at school too, in case we have a large number of people. So who should I call?
Because the one on the 13th is at the Dummerston School.
At 6:15.
Yeah, so I guess the first thing to do would be to call Sarah at the school and make sure
Okay.
that there's nothing already.
That it's available.
Right, right.
Right.
And then-
Yeah, cause I can't wait much longer.
And there's basketball
Right.
season as well, it might be over by then.
Okay. So, okay,
And
Or
we've,
Nancy?
Nancy
All
or
right.
Sarah.
either or, yeah, in front of us. And we've tried pretty hard. They're not, you know, the circumstances are not identical for Putney and Dummerston. The biggest difference being that it's in their town, so it will lower their grand list. And for us, we'll be paying them taxes on that parcel. Other than that, we've tried to keep it pretty much apples to apples. You know, there are some little things. They've accounted a little bit differently. Karen has been a little bit more conservative in her accounting, which I think is a good idea. We've got 3% increases per year on things. They've got 1.5%
Yeah.
increases. So, you know, hopefully our budget is a little bit more conservative and a little bit more generous, and you know, hopefully neither of us have any issues with the budgeting, but that just
Right.
gives us a little bit more buffer in case, you know.
The unknowable.
There's something
Exactly.
that-
There's,
yeah,
you know, we
right.
tried to account for everything, but on something of this scale, it's hard to do that, so. All right, so,
Okay, so
Motion
you wanna-
to-
Yeah, I'll move to approve the Town of Putney 2019 warning for annual meeting.
I second that.
been moved and seconded to approve the Town of Putney 2019 warning for annual meeting. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Town of Putney Town, that's what threw me off.
Town of Putney.
Town, right, yeah.
All right, so grand jurors. Do we want to eliminate the elected position? Do we have document, do we need anything else? What do we have to do in order to do that?
All you need to do is make a motion that,
That we're eliminating it?
yeah. So here's a description of,
What the grand juror do?
yep.
Okay, so,
And as far as I know, I think, so Louise Garfield has been titled
grand juror for a long time.
for
and
like
hasn't-
10 years.
And hasn't done anything.
She hasn't done anything,
Right.
so, and Judy Hannah they're both up, so, I mean,
So this was just an updated, this law goes into effect July 1st, 2019. So, currently in office July, so we would, it's not July 1st, 2019 yet. So the law hasn't gone into effect yet, or maybe that, wait, on December 1st,
Well,
or maybe that's the,
I mean, so neither
No, it-
Louise or Judy are running again.
right.
So
Yeah, no
neither
one's-
of them are.
Yeah, no one petitions
So
for
it'll be
those,
a
so,
write-in only.
right, it'd be a write-in.
I think I misread that. I think that was actually from whatever the law that was listed above this. So anyway, the way this law reads is that Act 93 changes laws that address town grand jurors and their duties. Under current law, all towns must have a grand juror, and it is an elected position. The bill now gives select boards the discretion to decide whether they need a grand juror, thereby making the position optional. Select boards may appoint a grand juror the same way and with the same discretion as they do with such positions as fence viewers, weighers, etc. So essentially what we're doing is making it not an elected position. And then
Right.
we have the option to appoint or not. This is by no means a complete list of duties of grand jurors, but the duties of grand jurors will enforcing and prosecuting liquor laws, seizing forged, false, or counterfeited currency, executing certain search warrants, enforcing and prosecuting truancy laws, and enforcing criminal ordinances unless explicitly designated. I don't think that either of our grand jurors currently is appropriately trained or,
Right.
Just had the most hysterical visual.
I was doing the same thing, like Judy Hannum kicking down a door. Not gonna happen.
And we have sheriffs that.
Right.
deputies that
Exactly.
Do this
Right.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is just obviously a leftover from a, so I would entertain a motion to decide that we do not need a grand juror, an elected grand juror,
All right.
and we would thereby make the position optional.
So I'll move that we no longer have an elected grand juror per H 829 Act 93.
I second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to act on H 829, Act 93, and eliminate the position to, as grand juror as an elected position. If there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm trusting you. Ungarble my sentence and put it in there. in a
No, you don't know how to
readable
spend my
format.
Sunday?
Yeah, blah, blah, blah,
Listening
blah,
to
blah,
the
blah.
tape.
Yeah.
And transcribing. There's one more too, that while we're talking about this one, town agent.
Yeah.
All right, so the select board now has that authority as town agent. So that elected position has
Been
been
eliminated.
vacant.
Okay, so we don't have to move on this.
No, you're the authority,
It just puts that authority on us, okay?
right?
So we will prosecute and defend suits. Okay,
Which we have legal counsel to do that.
exactly.
So,
Yeah. All right, anything else related to that?
so that, no, I think that covers that.
Okay, so now we're on the town manager's report.
Did you get the stuff from the school? Everything?
Yes, yeah, we're working on, so the town report, by the way, under town manager's report, might as well report where we're at. So we're looking good. I mean, next 2 days, we're gonna be focused on pulling it together. We'll have a draft for the weekend to review. And then, did you want copies? Or do you have other things on your agenda for the weekend? I think it's.
A digital copy would be great.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alright.
It's almost all done, there's just pieces.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I kept promising to read it
So
this
the-
weekend,
Yeah,
but.
No,
basically, you know,
but if you
like
have
the
that,
town
you can
Yes,
forward
I
it.
can, as I can, yes.
The budgets need to go in there. It's pretty much together, and the school was very good about getting stuff.
Good.
They did revise some things, and so we have to take out.
And I know my
replace.
wife's report is long.
It's fine, I told her it was fine.
Yeah, it's just because it's all
It's
Act
needed,
46
right.
related,
It's
exactly,
needed,
so it's
so-
just.
We don't alter reports,
Right,
so whatever's sent in goes in the book.
yeah,
So we're in good shape. We're hoping to have it to the printer by Monday.
I don't know if you remember this. Didn't someone say something at the end of last town meeting last year about changing the location of the articles or?
We've already done that.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, we
Okay.
want to get that.
Okay.
I do remember that, what was the, what?
I
We
can't
want
quite
to feel that
specifically
heat
remember it.
this year.
Yeah, I can't remember
Because it was
specifically.
in the front and everybody's used to having the.
Oh,
articles
last year it was in the
back.
front?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It was towards the front, no one could find them and
Right.
it's,
You should go in the middle. No.
I can do that. I'll put it on colored paper.
One on
the
each
back
page.
side.
Yeah. Again, the school will be in the front and then the town will be in the back.
Sounds good.
Let's see, what else so construction bids are due tomorrow for the Phase 3 sidewalk. We did get a few calls. I know contractors called the engineer directly.
And did you send them specifically to certain people, or was it just posted and?
No, we put it in the paper
Yeah.
and we did advertise it, and some of the bigger companies that have the plans,
Yeah,
they were
Follow up
calling,
on it.
yeah, so
Good, okay. there's interest,
we're hoping,
yeah.
so we'll see what happens. Those are due tomorrow. I think the bid opening's at 3. So, one other item I have is from the Lister's office. A note to let you know that the Listers have voted to grant Putney Community Cares, P as in Paul, V as in Victor, R, -317 tax exempt status.
Okay,
They're tax exempt at this point.
and we don't, that's a lister duty, so that doesn't come up at town meeting.
Right.
That's essentially to eliminate the every 5 years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it for me. Unless you want to add anything, Melissa. No, you're good? All right,
She wants to go home.
we're gaining.
Okay, warrants,
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll move to approve and execute the warrants as presented or upon review.
it's been moved
Oh, second,
And
I'm sorry,
seconded.
I was.
to approve and execute the warrants as presented upon review. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, payroll warrant dated January 25th, 2019, in the amount of $12,459.26. This is on-call firefighters, EMS, and library.
We don't need an executive session today.
I'm fading fast.
Did you have another meeting or something about the sidewalk this week?
I did, I met with we did a pre-bid conference
Uh-huh.
with the contractors, and RSG was here.
Okay.
So Kurt was really good, he led the whole meeting, so,
And how many contractors showed up?
there's at least 4 that signed
Yeah.
the sign-in sheet, but it looked like there was more,
Yeah.
and Pathways was
Oh, here.
here, yeah.
Right.
But some
Go ahead
local
with it.
companies.
Good.
Payroll warrant dated February 1st, 2019, in the amount of $7,294.40.
So this is our general.
Yep, office and highway. So the highway department, as you know, with all these storms, so the last 2 weeks, they had been putting in some overtime. Anywhere from like 50 to 60 hours, depending on the week. But, yeah, it just doesn't seem to let up. It's either rain or snow.
It's been
So
crazy.
ice or,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, well, I think I'm doing a great job, so.
I don't know how you're, I don't know how you're supposed to keep up with some of it.
I know,
It's
even
not
like
that hot.
last night, it started off really light, and then all of a sudden, it's like you get 6 inches.
And it was heavy and messy,
Yeah.
at least in our driveway.
So, what do we have? Accounts payable dated January 21st through February 1st, 2019, in the amount of $82,308.85. Where's my cheat sheet? Not many there for that amount, huh?
Well, here's the biggie.
Who's that?
Community Bank.
Oh, yep, that's the loan payment. We had 2 loan payments this week.
It's USA Blue Book.
That is wastewater treatment plant. That was, I know it was a high invoice. I'm like, going, what? But it's not equipment, but it's stuff they need down there.
I know that stuff's expensive.
Yeah, the wastewater treatment plant too is, things are going up down there, you know, like their chemicals and stuff like that. Joe
Mm-hmm.
had warned me, but, of course, with the water and the sewer budget, any increases drives your rates up,
Right,
because that's how that budget is, how it works.
right, yeah.
So, I don't know if they shop around.
Well,
One.
they're probably getting deals because you're buying it in bulk for, you know, all kinds of, their
Right, because you get it for
other
the
accounts,
pool
you know,
and,
right.
yeah.
And so the more stuff they get from one company, the cheaper, they get put in a different tier.
Yeah. I don't really know what all that is, but it's related to the wastewater.
Leaf
treatment.
chopper, that's a chemical.
Protects gloves.
Yeah.
Those are essential.
No question.
Triple layers.
Those are expensive.
Hmm.
$20 a box for 100 gloves.
For what kind of gloves?
for latex gloves.
For 100 gloves?
No, for 10 boxes of them.
Oh, okay. That's actually not bad.
10 rugs is 100.
Yeah, that's actually a decent price. Where are
10.
you getting them
We
from?
get-
No, 10 boxes at $20 a box.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
That's
$20 for a box of 100 gloves?
Well, it's because they're diamond grip powder free latex. I have some.
Yeah, they're the really heavy ones.
Exactly, they
Okay.
last,
Yeah.
they actually last, and if I was working in a sewer plant, I
Yeah.
would probably
Okay.
want
So
to.
no, I
They're
don't
not
begrudge them
disposables.
that.
Yeah,
They're not
and I
disposable.
just bought some recently, and it was like 19 something for the box, so that's
So
Well,
they keep them.
in line.
I buy the
They're just wear?
disposables for.
Not necessarily, I mean, I do, but I'm not working with sewage,
Yeah.
so.
Right.
But they just, like the normal ones, you catch it on something and it's gone. And these you can beat up and they hold up surprisingly well. But they're significantly more money, but they're great. I just discovered them not too long ago, so. All right, any other business?
Yes, sorry.
Oh, great,
He always does that.
yeah.
I know, well,
Only two more folders worth then.
so Michael Barrett,
Yeah.
sent an email, he is resigning.
Oh, from the rec board?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
so he's traveling
Is he
to the
moving?
west coast.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah,
so he's in between, but eventually he'll be out there.
yeah,
So he has resigned,
that's too bad.
yeah.
he's done a
yeah.
lot.
Thank you,
Right
Mike,
there.
very much for all your efforts.
Yeah.
It's been a-
And then here's some thank you for the appropriations that we sent out from social agencies.
These are for the social
Yeah.
agencies, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. So there's a thank you from Brattleboro Area Hospice, AIDS Project.
Wyndham County Humane Society, is there 2 more? Just thick paper.
Good,
that's all I have.
all right. So I'm a little confused by the note under the next meeting date.
All
We
right,
definitely
so-
have a next meeting date, February 13th, but then there's a recommendation of a special meeting February 6th.
Well, it's up to you. So either, we still have to conduct business, at least get warrants signed. So we can meet here at 5 o'clock on the 13th.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And then-
we can't do that? Can we not do that in Dummerston?
Why would we want to? I mean, if that meeting's at 6:15,
Yeah,
we meet here at 5, we can get the warrants signed and then,
that's fine.
Sounds good over there.
and go over
Or-
there.
well-
I'd
The
rather not
6th
carry
is-
our warrants.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fine.
The 6th is the school concert and there's an abatement hearing here.
Oh, okay, yeah, so 6 doesn't work.
So, yeah, so
So-
we'll do it on the 13th
Yeah, we'll do a special meeting at 5 PM on the 13th here.
here.
Just conduct, you
It's
know.
not actually a special, well,
I already had that in
Well,
the
yeah, 'cause
calendar.
it's
so
5.
it's a regular meeting at a different time. Yeah, yeah. Either way, however you want to look at it.
I mean, we can start it at 5:30.
No,
It still gives us time,
Gives us half an
but if it,
why don't we wait till we're closer and,
okay,
I mean, if on February, whatever that last
Mhm.
Friday is on the
right.
15th, or on the 8th, you're saying, we really are gonna have an
Yeah.
hour's worth of stuff, then we'll start at 5.
I don't
Otherwise,
think
start
I'm
at
gonna
5:30.
try to plan, I'm gonna just focus on warrants.
Warrants and, yeah,
Payroll and accounts payable.
quick update and then
Yeah,
go from there.
yeah.
Sounds good.
What time is the one at Dummerston again?
6:15.
At the school.
Yeah.
At the school, right?
We'll get that notice out too.
We should probably post that on the board
Mhm.
also,
Mhm.
sooner rather than later, so people can start thinking
hour.
about it.
Sandwich
Right.
board. You mean
Exactly,
outside?
yeah.
Oh, taxes are due to February 15th.
14th?
15th.
15.
February 15th is the third installment.
So that's the one that carries a large penalty, so if you owe back
Correct.
taxes, pay it
Yep.
before then. All right, if there's nothing else, motion to adjourn,
So moved.
Seconded.
all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.